If you're building applications powered by large language models, such as OpenAI's GPT, you will soon hit a point where you need to monitor, evaluate, and improve the calls to the LLM to make sure your app is reliable. LangSmith is an MLOps tool that allows you to do just that. It's created by the authors of LangChain, but you can use it in any application, even without using the LangChain framework. That's what I want to show you today. Let's get into the code. The easiest way to integrate LangSmith into your application is by using their wrappers and the traceable decorator APIs. You can import them from LangSmith, and then whenever you are creating an OpenAI client, you can just wrap it in the provided function. So I can go wrappers, wrap OpenAI, and cover the constructor. This will make sure that every call to the OpenAI is tracked by LangSmith. Now, if I want to capture functions that are not calls to the OpenAI, I can do this too by using the traceable decorator. Here, I have a function I want to track in LangSmith as well. I can do this by providing the traceable decorator and giving it a name. You can also provide tags and metadata. Here I'm providing just the name of the plugin and a version, but you can imagine providing anything that helps you filter the data later on. If you want to add tags or metadata on the fly while calling the function that is traced, LangSmith adds a parameter called LangSmith extra to any function that it traces. And here I can just provide metadata operation, and this is actually doing description of the HTML, so I can say describe HTML. You can also track multiple nested functions. So as part of this get page content, I'm actually calling this clean HTML function down here. So I can just add the traceable to that as well, call it clean HTML. I don't need the tags or metadata, thank you Copilot. And this will make sure that the calls to this function are grouped under the context message call. Now let's try to run this and see how it looks in the LangSmith UI. All I need to do to start logging the traces to LangSmith is to just set some environment variables. I need to set the API key that I can find in the settings of my LangSmith account. I need to enable this tracing v2 for the automatic tracing for the decorator and the OpenAI wrapper to work. And then I can optionally set a LangChain project to save my traces under. Then I just instantiate the plugin I just showed you. I have it navigate to a URL. And if I invoke the context message property, it's going to call the LLM. It's going to save the traces to LangSmith, and I can show you how this looks in the UI. So here is my LangSmith dashboard, and this is where all the magic happens. So if I go into projects and I select the project that we configured in the environment variables, you can see all of my traces. So you can imagine as people are using your application, everything that you are tracking and that you want to monitor is going to end up here. And you can limit this to only the LLM calls, so just the language model, or you can see all the runs, so even the intermediate functions. And you also have this monitoring dashboard where you can see the success rate, the latency, the token or cost consumption, and so on. If I go back to traces, the top item here should be the call that you saw in the Jupyter notebook. And you can see the top level trace. So we were getting a context message for the plugin. And as part of that, we called the clean HTML function. So it received some raw HTML and it cleaned it up. And then we fed this into the language model, into GPT. And you can see that we gave it some system message describing the goal and the HTML, and the output was the description of the HTML. You can see some stats here, or if I open the sidebar here, you can see it in more detail. So when this happened, if it was successful, then I can see the token and dollar consumption. I can see the latency of the call, and it was an LLM call. This is the tag that I added to the trace. And you can also see the metadata. So some of this is included automatically by the OpenAI wrapper, but here you can see, for example, the operation, which was describe HTML. So this is what I added in my code to identify this specific call. Now, monitoring your LLM application and saving traces is just part of LangSmith. The real value comes when you start annotating your data and, more importantly, forming datasets from them. So annotating just means providing feedback on the data. And LangSmith has this annotation form for it, where you can provide feedback on any kind of variable that you want to track. So I have correctness, completeness, quality here, but really you can track whatever variable you want. You can add new tag here and track whatever you want. And you can provide the feedback here in the LangSmith UI, but you can also do this programmatically. So you could integrate this right into your application and have your users give you feedback about how the interaction with your application or with the LLM went. After you have your data annotated, you can save it to a dataset. And for this, again, we have this nice form. We can change the response in whatever way, if we are not happy with it as it is. And then we choose the dataset and save it. And what the datasets are useful for is you can then run evaluation on the datasets. So if you are changing something in your application, you can go back to datasets that are, hopefully some real case or real use cases in your app. And you can see if the application is still performing well on these, or, if there was a regression or whatever. So you can test your application against those datasets. And then they also have this export, and one of the ways you can export the dataset is in the OpenAI format that is used for fine-tuning. So you can take data from LangSmith and use it right away as a fine-tuning dataset to improve a model for your specific use case. So this is really powerful. I will talk about evaluation and fine-tuning in a future video. The last thing I want to show you in this video is how you can save your traces manually in LangSmith. So the OpenAI wrapper and the traceable decorator APIs are great to get started with LangSmith very quickly. But if you need more control over your traces, you can actually create them manually. And you can do that by importing run tree from LangSmith and creating the tree just like this. So this is going to be your top level trace. You give it some name, the run type, and some inputs. And then you can create child runs on it, just as you see in the example. So for example, here I have a chat OpenAI type, chat OpenAI run of type LLM. And it doesn't have any inputs because I'm not calling OpenAI directly, but I'm instead calling my web browsing agent and asking it to search for weather in Prague. And after I have the interaction, I can rewrite the inputs, for example, and then I can end the run with some outputs. So this is the response from the agent, and I can post it to LangSmith. So let's run this, just so you can see what happened, and then it's going to take a couple of seconds. And you can see that the agent responded, and it actually wants to call some tools. And that's where I can create another child of the top level trace, which is just the tool calls that the agent wants to make. And I can commit the interaction, which is going to call the tool calls or call the tools. And then when I end the run, I can give it responses from the tools and again post it to LangSmith. So this is going to be much quicker, as you saw. And then I can end and post the top level trace as well. And now all of this is going to end up in LangSmith. Now if I go back to my LangSmith dashboard and to the project that we were saving this in, you can see this supervised agent interaction, and this is what we were just creating. So you can see the OpenAI calls, the committed interaction, and the tool calls run, and this is what we just created in the Jupyter notebook. One thing I have to note here is that this wasn't a great developer experience. LangSmith is created by the creators of LangChain, and they expect everything to work out of the box because it does when you are using LangChain. But if you want to use LangSmith in your application that's not using LangChain, you have to reverse engineer some of the inputs and outputs format that they expect for the UI to look nice. I was having trouble getting the token usage to show up correctly and track correctly across the runs, and all kinds of little things that you won't encounter when you are using LangChain. So this is just a note of caution, but I think it's understandable. They want you to use LangChain, and LangChain is a good framework as well. So if you are using that, you're probably going to be fine. Otherwise, I think LangSmith is a great platform, and it's really going to help you get your LLM application from just an experiment into something that you can actually run in production and have some certainty that things work as you expect. And I highly recommend you use it and try to integrate it with your current stack. I think that's it for now. Let me know if you'd like further videos into LangSmith, and follow our YouTube channel for more interesting tech videos like this. Thank you for your attention, and bye.